It's our privilege tonight, though, to invite Marilyn Mills. I'm going to share a real brief bio with Marilyn, but many of you know her. If you're living in California, you really know her, but Marilyn is the North America West Church History Advisor. She documents church history sites, trains stakes and missions in annual histories, publishes church history, takes oral histories, and collects documents and artifacts. She also shares her church history as she is doing with us tonight. She's been sharing church history since 1997 as the co-chair of the Southern California Pioneer Sesquicentennial. And this was where she met a number of our great friends from the California market. As a part of that, she organized a large group of reenactors that worked at the LA Fair, Los Angeles Fair for 9 years at schools and communities teaching California pioneer history. Again, she's been doing this assignment for about 9 years at this point. To celebrate the 150th anniversary of the arrival of the San Bernardino pioneers, she helped to produce a modern-day wagon train that traveled from Spanish Fork, Utah to Southern California in the year of 2001, traveling over 700 miles with wagons, horses, mules, and hundreds of participants. A phenomenal event. She's a graduate of BYU, graduated in design, and she has created museum exhibits all over the state of California, especially as it relates to California pioneer heritage. She's written historical pamphlets, an article in the February 2003 Ensign magazine, The Pioneer History of California, and her latest publication is A History of Fort Moore, the Pioneer Memorial in Los Angeles, which was erected to honor the Mormon Battalion in the California Pioneers. She's from the California Upland Stake, and it's just a real privilege to have Marilyn with us. I want to thank Laura Anderson for her help on the audio and for the screen sharing. So Marilyn, we are grateful to have you with us, and thank you for all you've done and for taking time to be with us tonight. We have about 45 minutes for you for this presentation, and I'll let you know when we're about 5 minutes before closing, okay?
I would greatly appreciate that. In fact, I'll try to end so that last little bit we can have questions. So
that'd be great.
And thank you. I just love being with all of you. I don't know all of you, but Peter and Denny and Kevin and all, and again, 97 is where Greg and I first met, and that was meant to be, that's for sure. And Guy Dixon and Dennis Holland. And so this has been a great, great journey. I just want to give you one kind of little exciting bit of news. There was an archaeological dig around the original Mormon Battalion built courthouse in San Diego. And a Professor Moriarty from San Diego, University of San Diego or San Diego State, either one, had done a drawing of what the original building looked like and made blueprints and everything. And a family in my state, Darville Allred, who's also a descendant of the battalion and active in reenactments, he and his family wanted to go and see if they could dig up any of the bricks because their daughter in 4th grade didn't want to build a mission. California, you always have to build a mission. She wanted to build the battalion courthouse. And so they went around to find bricks to see if they could actually build this little model out of the bricks. Well, they didn't find enough bricks for her model, but they did find bricks. They're pieces of them, and they've kept them. And the model is in my house now. It was in the San Diego Visitor Center for years and years, and they gave it to me on the way out when my exhibit was going down, and they were going to tear out the building and remodel it. And just last week, I took my little sections of bricks that the Allreds gave me and gave them into the church archives so that if they are in now, pieces of those 40,000 bricks we always talk about. And one is wonderful. It's a corner. And so it's big enough. You can see there's one with mortar on it. And so those are in the archives now. And I'm going to ask if maybe the model and that one corner can go into the battalion historic site in San Diego. I don't know, but it's been collected and we actually have part of those bricks. So it was really exciting. I'm going to talk to you tonight about the history of Fort Moore, the memorial that was built in 1950s in honor of the battalion and the California pioneers. And I have a PowerPoint that I've got some pictures. Some of you will know the pictures from that. You've got my little booklet, this one that Denny held up today. And I'll share some things that you might not know about it. So I'm going to go kind of quickly, but at the end, let's talk if you have some questions. All right. All right. So let's start from the beginning here. All right. Now, let's move to our first slide. Of course, you know that in 1847, the Mormon Battalion built Fort Moore on the highest point of Los Angeles, at the top of the hill, or Battalion Hill. There's a lot of different nicknames for it. This particular sketch, I gave you this original one. I was able to get this copy from the Huntington Library for the booklet, but it is so clear. I wanted you to see, look at the fort right here. And this was drawn only 6 days after the flag was raised. And so this is Mrs. Pryor's house. And then they're showing you what it looked like. And this is the highest point in all of Los Angeles. And it remained a significant place. Just a few years later, when the California governor, John Downey, and his wife, Maria, when they came into Los Angeles, they were given a gun salute. A month later, General John Fremont came in and he got a gun salute from that hill. And then 56 years later, there was a huge celebration in 1903. A new flagpole was put up. They brought it in from Siskiyou County and by ship, and they brought it in. And this was a huge new flagpole. They wanted to keep this place significant. It was only placed 100 yards south of the original one, so it was very close. And believe it or not, 2,000 people attended this celebration in 1903. And it was done by the Native Sons and Daughters, the Historical Society, GAR. And so they also installed a time capsule in the base. Now, if you'll notice, look at this. These are leftover cannon that they were just laying on the ground. And this picture was taken in 1916. So it was a little time later. Well, after 1916, by 1932, a woman named Maybelle Thurman Davis moved into Southern California. She came with the big migration of saints that came during the Depression, just after World War I, into Los Angeles. And she had served as the first woman in the Utah legislature. She also is the one that, with B.H. Roberts, actually organized and established the Mormon Battalion Monument in Salt Lake. So when she moves to Southern California, that's her first order of business. She proposes, and there was a chapter of the Daughters of Utah Pioneers then, 1932. She proposes that they build a monument to the battalion in Southern California, and not only right on the site to honor the battalion of California Pioneers, but to preserve the site. Already by 1932, Los Angeles was starting to dig away the hill for streets and all kinds of, to build up the city. And she didn't want that hill to be demolished. So she proposed to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors a monument plus a retaining wall to hold all that dirt in place. Now, she pursued this for 9 years, and they were collecting funds, the DUP, and doing as much as they could to further the cause. And then World War II happened, so there was a pause. And during that time, the little ladies of the Daughters of the Daughters of the American Revolution remembered their time capsule, and at the 25th anniversary, they came and took out what they had put in 1916 when that new flagpole was put in. And I think this is an absolute darling picture, but they were doing that. And other activities were still continuing on the hill. We actually have, this is a photo taken on the day that Generals Patton and Doolittle came to Los Angeles, and they were given a gun salute there as part of the of their welcoming after World War II in 1945. So things are continuing on the Hill, but Maybelle has not given up, nor the Daughters of Utah Pioneers. So they are continuing to present things to the Board of Supervisors. Well, 18 years later, they finally got the LA Board of Supervisors to agree to build a monument. And the ground was broken in 1953. And the plan was to have a retaining wall as well as a big art piece. Now, a contest was sponsored. This is a very old picture and kind of blurry, sorry. A contest was sponsored to find the very, very best design. And Japanese architects Katsumi Adachi and D.K. Nagano won. They actually had been interred in Japanese camps during World War II, but they became great architects, and this was a great honor for them to be chosen. And this is the wall that they designed. I actually, in the booklet, have the plans. LA County gave me the plans, so they're very little, but they're in the booklet, so you can see what detail there is in this. And then the bas relief that was designed by Henry Crease. He was very well known in New York and Washington, D.C. for major bas reliefs. But this turned out to be the largest one west of the Mississippi. And then Gladys McBean, very well known in the San Francisco area for their terracotta tiles and big structures. They did the fabrication. In fact, for the booklet, I contacted them and asked them a lot of questions so we could put information in the booklet about Gladys McBean. Now, another part of this entire memorial was also this pylon. Of course, this is a modern day picture, but this was designed by Albert Stewart, the eagle. He's a famous sculptor, and people that know Albert Stewart like this. And then if you'll notice along the bottom here, for those of you that have been there, you know this is also an art piece that's etched into the stone. And it's the history of the Mormon Battalion. It's got pictures of them signing up with Brigham Young and moving west and marching and even gold discovery. So this section right here, what we call the pylon, was designed by Albert Crease, but also the Daughters of Utah and Sons of Utah Pioneers and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints funded this whole section here. This pylon was to be a backdrop for the flag. And then, of course, they wanted the history in more detail at the bottom of this. This entire project was going to be very significant, and the LA Board of Supervisors, the Department of Water and Power, the Department of Education, all of these groups came on board, including Dorothy Chandler of the Chandler Pavilion. She was very influential in Los Angeles at the time, and others came on board so that this would be an outstanding and significant piece of art. Now, I want to tell you some of the details of this particular monument. In fact, I'm not sure if if you've been there, you know it's very tall when you stand at the bottom. It's 46 feet tall, the wall you're seeing. And unseen below is an apron that extends 218 feet to the street. Where you see that car is, it's 218 feet from the wall forward. And then that has a cantilever running down into the hill 9 feet. The overall wall actually arcs. It's a radius. So this corner right here and the opposite corner, at the other end, turn in. So they arcs for stability. And the pylon itself here is 15 feet wide and 68 feet high. So it's taller than the wall. And it has 24-inch diameter caissons that are driven 46 feet into the earth at the corners for stability. All right. Now, so this project moves forward, and it's finally dedicated on July 3rd, 1958. Now, this is the famous photo that the brother that said it's on the internet. I believe this one is out there, but this copy I've received from the Los Angeles Library. Elder Hugh B. Brown was the church official that dedicated, as well as city and county officials. At that time, the Southern California Mormon Choir had already formed, and they performed, and an army unit and an army band played. So this is the famous picture of what it looks like in the famous waterfall. If you'll notice at the very top, there's a railing up here, and there's stairs right here on this end, and then the opposite end in the foreground, you can't see it, that you could climb to go stand and see an incredible panorama of Los Angeles, and of course, look at the monument from up above. Now, as far as what continues to happen after this day, after July 3rd, 1958, I am sure, but I could not find, I didn't do any extra research with the DUP, but we assume that this flag was continually raised on the 4th of July and other days. We know that the DAR women would come on June 14th for Flag Day and be raising the flag. But one major event happened and produced by the Los Angeles Stake in 1987, and President Hinckley, Gordon B. Hinckley, a counselor at that time, was the featured speaker, and it was the 140th anniversary of the Constitution. So they had a huge celebration. And just as a note, the Los Angeles Stake is celebrating their 100th anniversary in January. And they are the stake that was the first stake in the state of California. So be on the alert. There's going to be some big activities all over the state in January. Now, going on forward from 1990 to 1996, the DUP raised the flag and had a ceremony every single year without fail. And then in 1997, Carol Ottenreith, a member of the DUP, became a chair for the Fort Moore Memorial Committee that was formed. It was formed with the approval of the church and overseen by public affairs. And that committee included church members and non-church members and community members. And Carol made a huge effort to involve especially the Los Pobladores, the Olvera Street Merchants Association, Native American groups. And so each year the celebration included many groups that were the founding or the heritage of Los Angeles. And of course, the biggest one to start was the 1997 Southern California Sesquicentennial, which we all participated in. And since that time, we have had continued celebrations and reenactors. I think all of you will recognize a few people. Here's John Bascom. Of course, there's Greg, Guy Dixon. We have other people here. Here's Darvel Allred that found the bricks. And this is Antonio Villaraigosa. He was running for mayor at this day. This was in 2001. And he wanted to pose. And we had him as part of the dignitaries there. And every year since then, without fail, we have had a flag raising at the 4th of July, Independence Day at 10 a.m. And this is the one we had this year. You can see we employed a drone this year, and you can see our men and the flag going up on that beautiful flagpole. Now, the sad part about this monument is that it started to decline, not only with the structure itself and some of the bas-relief and the bricks were getting graffitied, and of course earthquakes and all the traffic that came up and forth and down this street, rumbled and did a few cracks and whatever. And so the Fort Moore Memorial Committee every year worked with Gloria Molina, the Board of Supervisors for Los Angeles County, just begging her to see if they would start to refurbish this. And I want to show you some very sad pictures, but this is how bad. Oh, excuse me. This is our last event where we have our pobladores reenacting the waltz that was done at the end of the day on July 4th, 1847, where the generals got together and the wives, and they danced with the Mormon Battalion waltzes into the night. So we we keep to the history. And in fact, these are our reenactors, and they did their gun salute as well. So we wake LA up at 10 a.m. every 4th of July. All right, now, this is what was starting to happen with the monument since 2000. A lot of graffiti. And again, things were cracking. The bas relief below the pylon was starting to crack and peel off. Homeless people were camping there, and the waterfall actually had been turned off since 1970 and never turned back on. They claimed a drought, but then they just were not positive about turning that waterfall back on for us every year. So it was off. Now, we also, the restoration started, and so all new pumps were put in, and a member of my stake presidency is with California Pools that did all the piping. So he snuck down there and got me a really nice picture of the new pumps. I think it pumps about 21,000 gallons a minute. This is how they were finally replacing all of the tiles that were falling off. And so that's the scaffolding. You can see that. And so the project began, the funding was given by the county with supporting funds from the city of $6 million. It was approved in 2015. And then they actually began work in 2017, and they completed it in 2019. And the rededication was on July 3rd, 2019. And then, of course, we had our yearly flag raising the next day on July 4th. And I gave one of those pioneer booklets to every single dignitary and every single person that attended the July 3rd dedication that came from the county. The church was not allowed to participate in the rededication, but there was a few of us that got to attend, and I was there as the historian. So I was able to be there. Now, when this restoration project was first announced in 2015, I just declared myself the historian of this. I had interviewed Maybelle Davis's son, Thomas Anderson, who still lives in the Los Angeles stake. He gave me a lot of Maybelle's papers and original documents and things like that. So I kind of felt like I could do that, but I did not officially represent the church. So it was much easier for me to work with the County Arts Commission. And I worked closely, though, with Public Affairs and Matt Ball. And I found out that the Arts Commission was actually going to remove the time capsule and open it up. And so I just begged to be there that day. And I let them know that among Maybelle Davis's belongings, I had the list of what was in the time capsule. So I wanted them to know that, so nothing would get taken out and misplaced. So I was there that day. They couldn't get it out, so they did it on their own another day. But the Arts Commission had a viewing for me and members of Public Affairs, and so we wanted to come in and see it, and I documented that everything was there. And so that was wonderful. But instead of all of the historical documents going back in, the County Arts Commission decided that they would not put it back in. And so this really concerned me. And so I asked if someone could hand carry all of these documents to the Church History Department and digitize them so that there would be a copy for the future, because the time capsule was very secure. But now that they were out in the air and being stored someplace, we imagine they will deteriorate. So the church did that in a day. Kathy Keller from Public Affairs flew up. They digitized it, all of the items, and she flew back down, and the church kept a digital copy. Now, the other thing that I found out is that the county was going to put new things into the time capsule. And so I asked how were they going to choose the items? And they said, well, we're going to run a contest. And the theme was, what is your Los Angeles? And so nothing from the history would be in the new time capsule. It would be all whatever a committee judged significant enough to put in there. So I told them that I had just finished my booklet and I was working very fast, hoping to put this in and have it ready for the celebration. And they said, no, you can enter it into the contest, but we're not going to automatically put it in the time capsule. So I entered my booklet. It had to be a certain size and a certain thickness to be able to go in. I made the suggestion that Maybelle Davis's son, Thomas, should be on the judging committee. And so they put him in there. So I had a friend on the committee, and my booklet was finally approved to go into the time capsule. Now, this is the list of what is in the time capsule now. Now, it might be too hard for you to see, but I want to read some of the items that are in there. There are individual people. There's also Angel City Brewery, the art department, Autry Museum, which is good, California African American Museum, Black Lives Matter, many of the people on the Arts Commission and the Mayor Garcetti, LA Rams, Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, Self-Help Graphics, and many other items that went in. They have not created a list that I know of that I can obtain to see what they are. But that day, all of those items were put into the time capsule on the rededication. And like I said, I was there. My name's halfway down in the M's. And showing that I'm supposedly in there. I'm hoping they put that in. So, and the reason I'm telling you all this, I want you all to know the history so that when I'm gone, someone can pass this on to their children. I will leave records in the church history archives, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that this Fort Moore booklet is the only one of a history that made it in. Now that's the time capsule just before they closed it up. And so that you all know, it's at the back of the pylon, the base of the back of the flagpole. It's in black granite, and that's me standing in front. Hopefully mine is in there so that you can see that I tell you that story. We don't know how long that the monument will stay protected. Already graffiti is going back up, and they do pretty well to get it off. There is a committee that lives in the neighborhood that reports graffiti and has people take it off. We will always be there on July 4th at 10 a.m. If any of you are there, we're trying to get the LA Stake and Santa Monica Stakes to support this going forward. Public Affairs and Dennis Holland and myself have designed actual panels to go along the railing that we want to put up during our events that explain the history in the booklet. And we want to get them up permanently. All of the meetings that I attended, the community meetings about accepting this restoration among the citizens, all the citizens asked, would I put something on the railing with a QR code and then have a website so they would know what the history was, especially for all the tourists that come. So we will work on that. Now I'm going to put this slide down and put up another item here that I want you to see. Hang on, where did it go? Oh my, it's not here. All right, I won't do it. I had the video of the waterfall being turned on for the first time after so many years. But I want you to know that as long as I'm around, we will support this monument. We will do everything we can to support it and make sure that it stays in good repair. We are also looking for a new chairman for the Fort Moore Memorial Committee. If you know anybody in the LA Stake or Santa Monica Stake or in the area that would like to help us, our chairman needs to resign for health issues. But we have some reenactors. We have me. We have a flag, the 1847 flag. So we will do what the Lord desires, and we hope that it'll stay up for many, 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 many years without without being defaced. So anyway, that's my presentation. I would love to take any questions if you would like. You can unmute and ask me.
You can also put your questions in the chat, and so that might be a nice way to facilitate that. But we have about another 10 minutes or so that we could enjoy this discussion, or 12 minutes.
The chat is in the top right-hand corner. We have a
Oh,
question.
got it. I see it.
The
Okay.
question is, where is the Hollywood sign in?
For the Battalion Hill? Okay, the Battalion Hill is right downtown LA. It faces east. In fact, those of you that can see this, Kevin made a great map, and it shows you where the fort was and where the monument was. Hollywood sign would be way up north and to the east. It's actually above Hollywood.
Thank you.
Marilyn, this is Laura. I was wondering
Sure.
if you've ever seen the history about the stuff that was sent into church history between the lady who did the monument and people at church history.
Right now, Tom Anderson still has all of Maybell's things. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, this is stuff that ended up at church history about that, the letters back and forth. And at first, basically the LDS people had been written out of the history of LA. And the church historian's office was very active in trying to downplay our role. And Sister Daybell actually found all the quotes. They said that there were other people who brought the flagpole. There were other people who did this. There were other people who did that. And she got actual quotes and sent them to prove that the Mormon Battalion really was interested and active in this. And
right. So you say these are now in the church history archives, in the
Yes.
archives?
Yes. And
Okay, well, I can go look for them. I have advanced access to the catalog, so I will go look for them. So I'm going to look under Maybell Davis, maybe.
Yeah, I know I have copies of them.
Okay.
I'm just not sure where they were. I got a lot of stuff. So
Okay.
Good.
Well, if they are original letters, then that's fine. But I do know I really hope that Tom Anderson will allow me to take all of Maybell's things and put it into the archive, so we've got all of her materials. But he does have them now. This was before COVID that I know they were there. I don't know what's happened. I haven't talked to him since COVID. So, but that's wonderful to know. Thank you. Yes, just so you know, she and B.H. Roberts worked together to create that battalion monument in Salt Lake. So she was very much into the history and getting it right.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Marilyn.
You're
So
welcome.
Marilyn, this is Kevin Henson. Can we expect you to put together a booklet on the Salt Lake Monument?
Oh, I'm not sure I could do that, but you know what? There might already be something in the catalog. Let's look. I'll look. Salt Lake Mormon Battalion Monument. Well, and you know what we can do is I can call Tom and ask him, does his mother have anything, you know, he brought big 2 boxes out. So, and I didn't look through everything. So maybe you have a map there. Do you have something that you're looking at?
No, just background stuff. I'm
Okay.
I multitask, you know.
Okay. All right.
There is a bunch of records on that committee. I know I've been through them at church history. So
okay. Now there's a
it's
question
unfair.
that says, who were some of the battalion soldiers who helped construct the fort? It was Company C. In fact, I think your best bet is to, Laura, you will probably have it, but I know Norma Ricketts' book has listed who was in each company. Do you have the new list of who's in each company?
We do.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
it was company A, C, D, and E.
And D. Yeah. And
So-
so you could look by those. Now, I do want to say one other thing about the book, that I'm not trying to sell it. You're welcome to buy copies if you would like. We give them out each 4th of July to any dignitaries that are there. One of my greatest desires was to show to Angelenos and to the powers that be who was actually in Los Angeles and California at the time the battalion arrived. Now, so this history goes through that early times. You know, California, the Upper California, Alta California, was pretty much left alone. It was 1,500 miles from Mexico City. They kept sending governors up and to Los Angeles to try and govern them, and the Spanish Rancho families would kind of get rid of them, send them back, and they'd send new ones up because they liked being independent. And this story is telling you a lot of that. And who was there? In fact, the Bandinis were, and you know, they met the battalion in San Diego. They just loved the battalion, and their daughters even sewed an American flag. They wanted to be part of the United States, according to the histories that I could find. And even there was a new player that I introduced in this book. We found her, Doña Bernarda. She actually lived in Monterey, and when Fremont came into Monterey with his 900 men and kind of said, "I need your horses," and she says, he knows Spanish, I know Spanish. And she went and met with him for a couple hours and said, "We want this war to end." And she had sons that were in the war. She did not want them killed. She had already lost her husband. And she said, "If you will let us be independent and have citizenship," and she gave them a whole list of things. She said, "We will gladly lay down our arms and be part of the United States." And so that particular meeting that Fremont had became a truce that he and hang on, I got his picture right here. Andres Pico signed, and it became actually the basis of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Those same qualifications that she and Fremont worked out. And so the Californios were very happy. Now, there was a lot of things that happened afterwards. They lost a lot of their lands, and there was a lot of ill feelings there, but they wanted to be independent. They had already been trading with the East Coast and with Russia and all these. They were very international. And so when we have people saying in Los Angeles that, the Mormon Battalion shot Mexicans, that's one of the things we try to debunk in the book, but also that the United States took California from Mexico, it's not the way it was. So if you want to get a little bit more detail on that, Antonio Bernada, that we put this in here. That's one of my greatest desires, was to present this to Angeleno dignitaries and to those saying that it's not quite the way it's being portrayed in current histories, that we stole it from the Mexican government. So anyway, any more questions? I've overwhelmed you.
Thank you for the presentation, Marilyn.